morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here. I know that many of you are joining from yesterday, and today we're going to see the airships that can make the solution to some of the problems that we heard yesterday. For those who are just joining us today, welcome to the sessions. We are going to have our speakers in the morning, 3 or 4 of them on the airships themselves, the leading airship companies, and then we will follow with the regulatory conditions that are coming up. With that, I'd like to point out that this is a celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Airships for the Arctic. Our first conference was here some 20 years ago, and we have, in fact, on the program, people who were actually there at that same time with me, which is very pleasing to see. But we can also see how the industry has grown very substantially in that time. And of course, the prospects for future growth are very good. I'd like to thank the University of Manitoba for hosting this in conjunction with Isopolar and the organizing committee. And with that, I would now like to turn it over to our first chair, Ross Prentice, who will introduce our speakers for the morning.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ross Prentice. I'm the CEO of Buoyant Aircraft Systems International, and I am also a logistics technology consultant. I've been working in a variety of roles throughout the last decade, involved directly with airship technology, and I'm very excited about the possibilities for positive change and expansion of access that airships represent for us. It's my privilege to chair the second session of the conference, and I just want to mention a couple of quick things before we get started. Barry mentioned as well, too, if there's questions throughout the session, if you could direct them, please, to the Q&A, and we'll do our very best to get answers back to you for those questions. I'd also encourage lively discussion in the chat or also messages of encouragement throughout the event for our presenters as well. As we have limited time for each presentation, I'm going to try to keep the introductions brief and hoping to allow as much time as possible for discussion and questions afterwards. So with that said, I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker, Arnaud Thioulouse of the Flying Whales Company. Arnaud graduated from the École Polytechnique in France and the Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta with a Master's of Science and Aerospace Engineering. He joined the airship world in 2018 as program manager at Flying Whales before being nominated CEO of the Flying Whales subsidiary in Canada, Flying Whales Airships Quebec Incorporated. Today, Arnaud will discuss the Flying Whales Airship LCA 60T and a planned lighter than air cargo transportation service for the Canadian North. This novel airship requires no infrastructure for operation and will ultimately integrate a hydrogen-fueled propulsion system producing net zero emissions. Arnaud, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rose. Hello, everyone. I hope you hear me well. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to present Flying Whales while I'm traveling. So I will then run to my airplane, but it's okay. So let's do it. So we will start with a short video, which shows our solution in action. Might be some music as well. And as a good French company, we always like to start with some poetry. So it shows actually where we started. We started in the forest with all the complexity of being able to have a good exploitation of a forest. And so there you will be our solution, so the way transforming into our airship. So we are developing a rigid airship with a long cargo bay that you just saw. So the cargo bay can hold, it's actually the length of a football field. And we grab the loads for this application for which we come from, let's say. We grab directly the loads while hovering up to the cargo bay. And then we transport it straight to the sawmill and we go back and we do it again. So here you can have an application which is very interesting when you have no airport or let's say no big water airport for such a ship. So we can take directly the containers and straight to the delivery area. So here is another application that is today done by helicopter, having a lot of different difficulties for assembly. The blades as a, well, I will show you this after. So while you all know the good opportunities to have a very low consumption with an airship, thanks to the helium acting for the lift. So here is an application in the French island, Polynesia Island, was buried the garbage because they don't have any access to a big port. Obviously, those applications are very interesting when you need immediate rescue. Thanks to our solution, we don't need any infrastructure. So by definition, when you have an earthquake or everything is broken, so without any infrastructure, you can still use Airship. And also in area where actually there is no infrastructure, and that's where we believe we can help the cargo with Airship solution. So here you can see, actually this is a whole solution with the air dock. The air dock is capturing the airship, and so the airship never land, just floating on the air dock, so we can put it back to the hangar, being protected from the wind and everything. To the weather. Okay, so let's start. So yeah, we always start with our raison d'être to explain where we come from and what we would like to do. We are not building an airship for building an airship. We just realized that airship was the best solution to unlock territories that are remote without any infrastructure, and airship can help to reduce a lot the environmental footprint of the cargo in a different way, either by the emission. So what is our adventure? We come from the wood, as I said, and it's actually our president who had a discussion with the president of the ONF. ONF is the French office, is a French agency taking care of the forest in France. And we have a big issue in France that the wood is the second contribution to the deficit in France, the balance. But we have one of the largest forests, so we need to find solution to remote roots from remote forest, and it ended up having as airship to be a very good solution. So that's where we start, and from that point we then work on the solution of the architecture, and now we have plenty of different application, more than wood. So here you can see where we are today with a large industrial consortium working with us to develop this solution. So you can see there is a lot of different companies. Some are very famous and very big, such as Pratt & Whitney, Honeywell, Safran. But we also have mid-sized companies in the industry, not necessarily in aerospace, but this make a very good mix of good partners that are for most of them risk-sharing partners, meaning that they are embarking on this journey with putting their own risk due to the interest of the solution and the work we are doing together. So where we are today, what is Flying Whales? Flying Whales, we today have two companies, Flying Whales, which is with part from Quebec and part from France, and Flying Whales Quebec, a subsidiary which belongs to Flying Whales and the Quebec government. So Quebec government entered into capital in 2019, and on the French part, we have a mix of public actors, so like Office National des Forêts, as I said, which is actually our first customer, but also shareholder. We have La Région Nouvelle-Aquitaine, who will build our final assembly line, but also big industrial companies such as Bouygues Construction, which is very interested to all the construction of our infrastructure, but also Aéroport de Paris, which is the biggest airport actor, one of the biggest in the world, and Air Liquide, which is obviously very interested to be a supplier to us for the helium, and also financial investor. And we for such a big development, we need to rely on public support. and that's why we added on the bottom right the different subvention and financing we obtained from public agencies such as BPI in France, the Ministry of Economy in France, but also in Quebec with the Ministry of Economy, which started this year and the year before to support the restart of the industry post-crisis. So here you can see a little bit of our timeline. So we passed this year the preliminary design review at the Airship level. We've been working on our development, let's say, since 2016, 2017. We had a first milestone and second one, and now we are closing the third one, the PDR, to go up to the CDR in 2023 that will allow to build our first airship. So the first assembly line will be in France, close to Bordeaux, and the construction of the assembly line will start by the end of this year to allow the production of the first LCA that will fly in late 2024, beginning of 2025. At the same time, we opened our subsidiary in Montreal. So I'm now based in Montreal, even if I'm traveling in the US right now. And in 2025, we aim at building our second production line which will be in Quebec. We have different sites, but we need to enter into details to find the best one. And in parallel, we are working with obviously certification, but I will let Thibaut explain very well where we are today and what is our approach. So briefly, our characteristic is that we are able to transport 60 tons while hovering, and the hovering part is one of the best interesting part of our solution. Our dimension is quite huge as every airship, so it's 100-meter long, 50-meter wide, but most importantly, we have a cargo hold which is as big as a football field, so it likes a lot of room to take very big parts that cannot be transported by any other matter. We have a propulsion which is all around the airship to have a good maneuverability, and 14 helium cells. So this is not pressurized, which gives a lot of safety, which helps in safety. We do have a lot of different market opportunities. So I talked about the wood and the way we could sustainably harvest forest. So we always explain that it's not removing wood from the forest, it's just taking less than what the forest is growing. So the forest still continue to grow. And thanks to the airship, we can take some wood everywhere in the forest and not only close to the road or having to build roads to go and take wood. We have a big interest with the power market. So as of the wind turbine component, which are a big nightmare to transport, because obviously we want to have a wind turbine very far and where the area are windy, so definitely not accessible and without any infrastructure. Yeah, I will go quite quickly so we can speak about the Canadian part. But we also have a special cargo transport for remote areas, as I said, so we can bring very big components to help infrastructure develop. We have a lot of interest also in the industrial market, so you can see with a little picture an application very interesting we are working on with Arianespace to be able to take the launcher in the sea after the launch. And I talked during the video about the humanitarian and aid for disaster relief, as Airship is a very good solution when the infrastructure are not operating anymore. So flying walls in Quebec, why are we setting up a subsidiary in Quebec? Well, actually, the government were very interested by the solution as Canada is one of the best area where Airship would bring a big deal, because there is a very interesting and rich, we have such good partners in the area. So in Canada, we identified four major area where we could bring our values. So the first one is to mitigate the consequences of the climate change. The second one will be to help remote communities and improve their quality of life. And the third one will be to access resource, but in a sustainable manner, and then to support the development of renewable energies, so such as the wind market, as I said. So we can see year after years, and Barry is explaining very well what is happening in the big north of Canada, having a very big difficulties with the ice road that are having less time during the years that can be operated, risk issues while the climate is changing, and the cargo, the airship cargo will simplify a lot of logistics. It will reduce time, cost, and the risk that is today facing the world. So yeah, we can see all the different communities that are in extremely remote areas. And we identified a use case which is really interesting to look at. It's a case of the communities in Kashishiwan, which is having year after year more flooding due to the climate change. So they decided to move these communities 20 kilometers away. So the cost was estimated to be between 500 to $800 million, which is well, extremely high for the size of this community. We worked a little bit on this case to identify what would be the gain of having an airship such as ours to do this, to help to relocalize this community. And we ended up having an estimated cost of only a fraction of what was estimated of about $20 million. A move that can be done very quicker within 6 months. So this is a kind of application that will really help as beginners. So as we are talking about the remote communities, there is just only some regular supplies that are very difficult to provide up to the north, and that are done through airplane today. So when you use an airplane, you are arriving in an airport which is still not the communities. So logistics is very difficult, which makes the products extremely expensive. So this will help a lot with Airship, as we can transport some houses in kit, for example, or fresh produces directly to the communities. And this is a very interesting application we've been working on since a year now, but which was not our first thing. We discovered that recently, that we would have a very interesting application transporting an hospital that could help communities not having access to medicine today, being able on a regular basis to have the hospital coming to them. So it helps in a way that you won't have to build as many hospitals as communities. You just need to build one. You will always have a good operating medical systems with good maintenance. You don't have any issues of broken stuff and so on. And also for the people to plan all these visits. So this is very interesting where you have spread communities in different areas. So exactly where what is done in most of Canada. So accessible resource in sustainable manner. I talked a lot about the wood in the Canadian forest are well as exploited as it could be due to their growth. And so this makes a big application for our airship in Canada, and also while preserving the forest. So there is a Quebec plan, which is called the Quebec Caribou Recovery Plan, to help the caribou still you disturb the local the animals, and going by the air can help minimizing our footprint. But when we speak about resources, there is also in the far north the minerals resources, and there is difficulties to access, which makes sometimes the mining to be shut down because the costs are too expensive. So thanks to that, we could either develop the economy locally and provide while providing the communities basic stuff to live. So so mining is obviously a very interesting application to us. And the last one is the power market. In the video, we were showing the way we transport towers. So today it's done by helicopters. So it's several rotations of helicopters with people having to work up into the tower, which makes it very dangerous. So we can do it very efficiently with a lower cost and easy operation. And as for the wind blade, well, when the blade is not bigger than our cargo hold, we can take inside the cargo, which makes it very easy and cost effective. And after, when you have like blades bigger than 100 meters, we can still carry it under sling, and going straight. It helps a lot the installation in Canada. And there is a annual growth of 16% per year, which makes a lot of work to be done for transport those wind turbine. And also, there is not only new installation; it's a lot of repowering because the life cycle of a wind turbine makes it a lot of activities at time, recurring activities. And to finish this presentation, we will talk a little bit to how we will improving the solution in the future. So Airship is extremely interesting as the emissions and the energy consumption is very low at the ton compared to other aircraft or helicopters. But still we are using petrol to convert and to create our electrical system up to the motors. So that's why we are working on a solution which will be totally sustainable. So so on the top left, we talk about the revolution as for the ground impact. Each base, which is not smaller, a lot smaller than an airport, addresses actually about 1 million square kilometer of operations, and we don't need any infrastructure in the operation, only the base. So helium provides a lift, which makes in average 80% less emissions than a helicopter. And we explain on the top right the equivalent emissions for an helicopter at the ton. And as I said, we continue to improve. So by 2024, we will get using a sustainable aviation fuel, but the ultimate goal is to be combustion free power generation by hydrogen, which makes zero emission in operations. So how we do that? We actually will have an architecture today that makes it possible to switch our turbo generator by a fuel cell without needing to change the downstream network, which is electrical propulsion distribution and the propellers which is already electrical propellers. So that's where we are today, showing us interest of having the Airship as for remote operation, the interest of having airships as for reducing cargo emissions in operations, and the way we will strive to have a zero emission in the end. So thank you very much. I hope you were not too disturbed by the airport noise, and I hope I was enough clear in my explanation.
It's perfect. Thank you very much, Arnaud.